Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem, a postmortem of my Blitz game number 471. My opponent played d4 and I played knight f6, kind of a flexible move, waiting to see what white wants to play. This allows the King's Indian or the Grunfeld setups or the Nimzo Indian setups, or you can always transpose back into a queen's pawn opening with d5 in many lines. So my opponent played e3, a very rare response. So top choice is c4, allowing all of those main lines. And for people that want to avoid main lines, knight f3 is often a flexible move for white. But e3 is a rare move. It's very committal. It blocks in this bishop. But white still has a couple of ideas here. He's certainly not going for the London system because his bishop is not coming out to f4. But he can go for the call system with the pawn on c3, or the call Zukertort with b3 and the fianchetto, bishop to b2. Or he could play like my opponent did in the game, and we'll see what my opponent's idea was here. I don't know what my opponent is playing at this point. I just go g6. Going with the fianchetto setup, I could have also gone with d5. All reasonable ways to play. He goes bishop d3, I get my bishop out, and now he gives his intention away. He plays f4. So this is why white has delayed the knight f3 move, which is a very natural move. He wants to get the pawn on f4 in front of the knight and then pull the knight out, bring the knight out behind it. So I go with c5. Either d5 or c5 can be played here. It's time to start putting some pawns in the center, counteracting that influence. We're basically out of the opening book at this point, but c5 is an interesting way to play. I like to get one trade in and make sure there's at least one open line. You can't really advance the pawn. I can just take it, and so I'm going to get at least one pair of pawns traded. So I take, and he decides to take back with the e-pawn, and I castle. So anyway, this Stonewall attack that white is playing has the idea of pushing this f-pawn forward, bringing the knight out. Maybe the knight goes to a different square even. Doesn't have to go to that square, but the knight goes somewhere. Kingside castling, and then the rook comes up and over, and then there's a quick attack against the king, and this f-pawn is used to soften up the kingside. So it's a dangerous system. You do have to take care in how you play against it, but the fianchetto is usually a pretty solid setup. So by chance I had chosen this, and I think it's a good response. You see the chess engine already has given black a slight edge. When I say by chance, I mean I chose this fianchetto setup before I knew that he was playing a Stonewall. So just happened to land in this setup, and I think it's a pretty decent one. Decent one in this case. Okay, so he continues, knight f3. I go d5. The problem with this Stonewall, one of them, is it creates a hole here on e4, which I try to take advantage of. Of course, white has an outpost on e5 for his knight as well, so pros and cons there. He castles, and I go bishop f5. So I decide, first of all, in this structure, notice that all of his pawns are on dark squares, all the central pawns anyway. And so this is a good bishop. It's got a lot of scope looking out through the holes in his pawn structure, and covers important squares. So trading that bishop off is a good thing for me. And when he takes, I also get more control over this e4 square, which is going to be an excellent outpost for my knight, and it could never be chased away by a pawn. His knight can come here to e5, but I can play f6 and chase it away. So I really have quite an advantage in this situation. Let's see. Oh, he played queen d3, and then I put the knight there. Even though I've allowed some damage to my kingside pawn structure. So I do have to take some care, but with this strong central influence, I can really slow down his ability to get any pieces near my king. My knight is controlling these squares. His bishop is blocked by the f-pawn. So he's just not going to get a quick attack going, and so he won't be able to take advantage of these weaknesses around my king for quite a while. Let's see, he goes knight bd2 to try and challenge my knight, but notice that he can't take it because I'll take back with a pawn and fork these pieces. So I have time to bring up a knight and defend my knight there. He hops in with knight e5. I go knight to f6, defending my knight, so if he trades, I want to take back with a knight and get another piece there. At some point later in the game, after more things have been traded off, he may eventually manage to trade up this piece. But then, in that case, I'll get a pawn on that square, and and that will also be good for me because I'll have a passed pawn for the endgame. So all in all, this is quite a good position for black, I think. He goes knight df3, and now there's no more threat to take here. So I developed my knight to g4, and I wanted to get out of the way of the f-pawn and take a look at his knight. And what is the chess engine? The chess engine is saying white's best play here is to play knight to d2, and then I should go with my knight to h6. It's kind of a funny way to play. At first it was hoping for a draw, knight d2, knight f6. Now it's changed its mind, knight d2, knight h6. Anyway, that's not a human way to play. He might be better off kicking my knight here with h3, kicking my knight away, asking me if I really want to trade for this knight. I would probably go back to h6 so I could still play f6 here. I'm not sure. There's also something to be said for knight f6, and then I have this hole on g3 maybe I can take advantage of. Anyway, he didn't play that though. He played bishop to d2, developing. And now I go f6, kicking his knight. And so he trades off my knight, and now I take back with a pawn, and I've undoubled my pawns. And he's got to move his knight, and that gives me time to bring the other f-pawn forward. So my knight is still cemented quite strongly here on e4, and I've got some advanced pawns near his king, which are pretty stable at this point. He can't really easily undermine him. I can always bring up the h-pawn to support these guys. So I'm feeling pretty good here. He goes knight c2. Queen d6, I'm just preparing for a kingside attack now. Rook a to e1. Bring my queen over to f6, looking at this square. Plays knight to e3, so he's getting his pieces to counterattack my center. I defend. One idea for white here might be, now that his knight is here, that's a good post for his knight. One idea might be for him to try and counterattack with the c4 move and try and undermine my structure. He didn't go with this. He just decided to keep his bishop at this point. My knight had been looking at his bishop. He just drops it back here. I play queen h4, continuing with my kingside plans. Knight to d1. He's reorganizing his knight a bit. And rook f6. I'm bringing my rook up and over. So at this point, he decides to play g3, kick my queen away. Drop back. And knight to f2. So challenging my knight here. And but I think I have a pretty strong move here in rook h6. Yeah, okay, the engine prefers that. It also says knight d6 is good, retreating the knight so that I don't give up a piece on that square. Not that I'm losing a piece, but a knight d6, the knight has the threat of going to either that square or that square maybe. Anyway, he can now trade off this knight, but not at the moment because there's a checkmate threat on h2. And the best way to deal with this is actually the move h4, which I thought this ought to be good for black. I would take en passant, but he can put his king in front of the pawn and basically play on. He's a pawn down, but my pawns are, I have these doubled rook pawns here. They're not very impressive as long as he's got a solid blockade and he can hold on to everything. And I'm just not quick enough to crash through, for example, on g6. He can trade off the knight here. Yeah, that's probably best. Knight takes, d takes, and now this pawn is adequately defended. Let's see, queen c2 even, and bishop f6, trying to maneuver my bishop in. I guess I could try this, but well, rook g1 defends. So he's got no problem holding on to this setup here. Slight edge for black. I mean, I do have an extra pawn there, but that's his best defense. After knight takes g4, he's just sacrificing a piece to try and stave off disaster. And so I really should just go on to win this game. So I take with the pawn. Okay, either one is good. I took with the queen. So that's still good. He plays queen e2. And now the engine is recommending queen h3. Keep the queen on. Keep some pressure on this file. And maybe knight takes g3 looks interesting. It also likes rook to g6. Rook g6, queen h3, queen g6. No, rook g6, yeah, or queen g6 or queen h3. Anyway, all these things keep an edge. I played rook h3. I thought I wanted to get my queen behind the rook for some reason, but this is a little bit slow and allows him to trade off the queen. And what I didn't appreciate about this is it immediately frees up his f-pawn and allows his pieces to get active. So even though I'm still completely winning, I'm giving him more activity than I really should have allowed. And so that was one mistake. Second mistake is taking. I really should defend here, which is funny. Putting your king to f7 is a very counterintuitive move because you're putting your king right in the line of fire of that rook. But the idea is king f7, he takes with check, and then you take this pawn, and you brought your king forward to defend these guys, this crucial d-pawn, which you'll see is an important factor later in the game. His rook cannot easily penetrate on the f-file because you're controlling all these squares. And if he tries to double, I guess he could play to this square and try to double. You have time to bring your rook over to oppose it. So all of this means that king e6 here is a good way to play it. Instead, I took the pawn, and when he takes back, once again, his rook is more active, and it's looking at my d-pawn. And I need to, at this point, pause and think about the defense a little bit. That he's starting to get active, and I really need to stop him from causing more trouble by just defending the d-pawn with rook d8. I was still, all excited about my attacking possibilities. I played rook f8, and he took. And now my lead is very slim, and my knight is hanging. So I need to play something like knight f2 to save the knight. Yeah, the knight can come forward to f2. Anyway, I wanted to get the rook on the second rank there and win that way. And I just gave up my knight for not even realizing that I had lost it. And now at this point, I need to sue for peace. My only hope of drawing this game, in terms of actual correct play, is to take the h-pawn with my h-rook, and then I have this draw by perpetual check with the h between this rook going from h2 to g2 back and forth. So that's the way to hold the game. At this point I played rook f takes h2, and I had this idea, which I thought was pretty neat. I could check the king, drive him here, check him again, drive the king here. Notice my pawn is covering this square, and when the king is on this square, when the king is on e3, then I have this bishop check, and I'm picking up his bishop over here. So I thought this was pretty good counterplay, but he can defend against this, and he starts off with rook d8 check. Cancel that. Rook d8 check. So it drives my king forward. I didn't want my bishop to get pinned, and he could just take it and attack it and take it, no doubt. And then he went rook d7 check. So I went back to f8. And now he can play rook takes g4, and that's how he wins. With rook takes g4, one key point is that, okay, I'm not in check, so I can go for my idea of driving his king to the third rank, but he can come out via f3. Now the pawn is no longer on that square, and my bishop, I don't have this skewer. And so after his king goes to f3, actually I have no move for my bishop. This bishop is completely lost. If I go back here, then the check will pick it up. If I go here, his bishop, actually maybe bishop here is a possibility. What happens here? Bishop takes h6, rook takes h6, rook f4 check. Anyway, he's a couple pawns up, and he's just completely winning. Okay, so I can save the bishop, but I still lose the game. Anyway, yeah, he went at this point, instead of taking on g4, that's the winning move. He just he'd been losing before. Maybe he was still just hoping to hold a draw, so he went for the perpetual rook d8, and he just checked back and forth and settled for the draw here when he was winning. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.